Where the drama starts. Lap 30, 8 laps to go. Sandovi hoping to take advantage of these lapped cars. Pilecki goes, dives onto the right side. Very aggressive here. This is lap 4. The two Viceroys. Bill Frazier ahead of Matt Pilecki. Frazier's off. Frazier hit the grass. You hit that tire wall, your day is done. You know, it's lap 20. The Williams still trying to get around the Terrell team as he'll go around the lap car and around those at the same time. At the same time. He's got the inside corner. Will he ride the curb? Yes, he will. He will get him on the inside. Duna Maria leading us all into Moss's corner. Look at the beauty as his right side will cook the grass a 180, no, a 360. Oh. Who will yield going into this corner? It's really not meant for too wide as it will be Gernot. Gernot will yield. Lots of smoke picking up from that Williams car. He is pushing it to the absolute limit. 26 of 30 now. Only 4 laps to go. He's going to get the run coming out the final corner. He's going to pull up side by side with the leader. It's going to be a drag race to the finish. Who is going to get there first? It's going to be...
Wood and Bycroft creep ever closer. The penultimate rounds presents a do-or-die situation in which either driver could truly put themselves in a position to claim the title. But to do so, they must beat Gernot Frische to the checkered flag. That's a task easier said than done. Will COTA be the place that changes the shape of this season's hunt for the crown? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 11 of the Lotus 79 Classic Teams Championship. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Stefan Schlacher. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Steph, talk about a love it or hate it track. I've heard very intense opinions on both sides about Circuit of the Americas.
Joe, the reason for that, or for pretty much all of the Tilke tracks out there, is that they're all samey. Meaning a squiggly bit here to make the drivers feel challenged, add 1 or 2 long straights, some tight corners, a long turn a la Turkey, and your steeply rising braking zone like in India. Put that into a mixer and you get the Circuit of the Americas. What Tilke really is known for are his fancy pit and trackside buildings. Yep, Looking at you, Rattlesnake Tower, which sits comfortably at the inside of turn 17. But we're starting to wander off the topic here a little bit, so let's talk about the stats then. 20 turns are marked out around these 5.51 kilometers. 2 massive straights, adding up to nearly 2 kilometers worth of straights. Do watch out though for drivers spinning out in the stadium section with these highly powered cars and late notice lunges down in the inside of one of the many slow corners. But without further ado, let us show you what Circuit of the Americas really is about as we send you trackside with our GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we've got Juhan Orlampi in the GSRC Lotus 79, so let's do a lap around Circuit of the Americas. Turn 1 is one of the most unique corners on the track with this climb. It makes for a short braking zone despite the tight hairpin. The tough part is getting the car to turn in and then accurately hitting this tight blind apex. Coming off of there, you'll switch sides to swing it into 2, which will lead into the S's. All the way from turn 3 to 9, you'll be working the wheel trying to keep the rhythm of the track. Definitely watch out for the pyramids at these apexes though. Hit them too hard and you can unsettle the car. Actually clatter straight over them and you'll destroy the floor. Like most sets of S's, the key through here is setting yourself up for the next corner rather than getting a run off the current one. Expect certain drivers to gain or lose lots of time in the first half of the lap. Once you climb over 9, you'll swing it through 10 and then hold the car off to the right for 11. This is a popular spot for overtakes into this hairpin, but the downside to passes here is it leads onto the long back stretch, and passing potentially leaves you open to an over-under move. Or sometimes your opponent can just get into your draft and slingshot their way past. As you can see by the incredible length of this stretch, the slipstream is most definitely going to become a factor. At the very least, most times you can take a moment to relax along this part. Thankfully, even if the pass in 11 went wrong, you can get another go into 12. I'd say this is the smarter place to try to overtake. It takes us into the very technical final third of the lap, and so opportunities for someone to get you back are slim. This stadium section in particular is essentially a set of back-to-back hairpins. The car doesn't get wound up enough to set up a pass. To me, it's one of the most frustrating and patience-testing sections of the track. Then, as you come out of here, you hit the triple apexer. A bit of balancing the throttle in the middle is all it takes, and the rest should be flat out before you're quickly swinging it off to the right. The penultimate corner is going to be difficult to nail with its blind off-camber apex. The paved runoff will help save you, but there's not much time before the final corner. Getting your exit right off of here is going to be critical since it takes us onto the final stretch. With all the paved areas of off-track, there's still lots of places to get it wrong here, but if you manage to get it right, you've now finished lap around Circuit of the Americas.
Get a sense of the elevation change around here from the low-slung Lotus 79. There are some definite rises and dips, but we've had those rises and dips in the points championship as well. As we take a look at the drivers' points thus far. As we mentioned, you can see Wood and Bycroft are still in it. It may look like a decent chunk, but considering they're using the official iRacing points, that could swing around pretty easily. Today will really set the tone on how close it'll be coming into the final round. Adam Frazier has a slight chance of getting in there as well, but it'll be a little bit more difficult task. Nicola Kochi just a little bit too far behind to really be a factor in any of this, but he rounds out our top 5. Let's take a look at the Teams Championship, though, in the Classic Teams Championship. Stefan, tell us about the points.
Well, we have got a Kip Renault Elf in first place, still with Gernot Richter and Keith Horner behind the 2 wheels of the cars. 7 points only back is still the Williams Racing team, piloted by Bycroft and Taylor, so do watch out for them, especially for Bycroft, who, as Joe already mentioned, is really looking forward to this race because he wants really to get to Fritzsche. Nicola Kochi and Guttuso in the Scuderia Ferrari team, 48 points already behind in third place. McLaren fourth, 71 points behind, but they're getting challenged by Kip Ligia Gitan, by Tommy Onhola and Barry West down there in fifth place, 79 points behind your leaders of Renault.
Now, in case you've never watched the Lotus 79 Classic Teams Championship, let's give you the rundown on the details. They do have drop weeks, keep in mind, and that could affect the championship as we come down to these last 2 rounds, 4 for the drivers and 2 for the teams. Now, today's race itself is 22 laps, and as was back in 1978, they do not expect to come in for pit stops. They do have an incident limit out here, and that could play a factor in this race with how easy it is to rack up off tracks with all that paved runoff. And as I mentioned, they use the official iRacing points to determine the points, and that is determined by the iRating that is out there, which should be decent looking down my timing and scoring and seeing what kind of drivers we're dealing with today. But right now, in qualifying, you can see Gernot Frische just took the pole away from Nicola Kochi, who was provisionally on the pole for quite a while. Frische is coming around for his second lap now, so we'll get another chance to improve that. We still got about half the field yet to set a time. Steph?
It's not always about the quantity, it's most of the times about the quality. And we have Paul Ferrer in the number 18, the last car to be in this race. And we have seen quite some good races from him already. So, yeah, the field's still tightly packed with talent here today. As the bespoken Paul Ferrer is now, I think that is actually last turn that he's coming around, so let's see what he does. It's a 59.767, so he most definitely made a mistake in that one.
That's about 3 seconds off the next car up, which is Barry West. Certainly has a little bit of time to try and get a better one down as we watch Tommy Unhola set his his first time, excuse me. That's actually good enough for fifth. That'll be a good third row start for the Finn. Simpkins, Lucal, Bell, and Morales are the four we're waiting on to set at least a single time in these last 2 minutes. Where is Kochi? Actually, Kochi's sitting in second, who was our pole sitter for a little while. Let's see what he can do on his second lap. He comes around the final corner and up to the line. He's got to improve by quite a bit. He improves, but not enough. Only about a tenth. And so it's 0.8 of a second from first to second place right now. That is a monster gap.
Yeah, and somebody just jumped into fifth place, I think.
And into second. Steve Bycroft chops it down to half a second. That's closer. Still not very close, unfortunately. So Steve Bycroft now on the outside of the front row.
Yeah, Fritsch OP, please nerf is, I think, gonna be the message of the day so far. But Barry West, he has come over the line at 56.254 for him, as also Johnny Bell has put in his time into 16th place at 58.295.
In fact, everybody managed to get a time in this last time by. I believe that should be just about everyone. I see Unhola's still out to set his second lap. Could be a little tight for him to finish that. Bell as well. And I think Bell might not be able to get his in, though. He's a little bit too far around the track. So we're going to watch Unhola be the last driver to be able to cross, see if he can get higher than fifth place. A 154.4 is his current time. And he ups it to a 53.9, half a second improvement. That puts him on the second row into fourth place. That's going to be it for our qualifying, though, with 30 seconds left. And Bell, unfortunately, a little bit... actually, no, Bell might be able to make it here. He's coming around the final corner now. So Johnny Bell is going to get this second lap in. Let's see if he can improve on this 16th place. He does not, unfortunately. So it was all for naught anyways. So that will actually wrap up our qualifying for today. So your starting order, Gernot Frische with a pretty decent chunk of time over the rest of the field, half a second between himself and Steve Bycroft, who will start to his outside, chasing him in the championship as well. Then in row 2, it'll be Nicola Kochi starting third with Tommy Unhola P4. John Atkinson Jr., nice qualifying from him to put it into fifth place. Rob Olenek will be starting P6. Timothy Dalton manages a 7th in qualifying, considering he's number 13 in iRating. That is not bad at all. Juan Micosta starts P8. Kendrick Taylor will be 9th, and Dustin Heroder rounds out your top 10.
Ove Trinkerade already only in 11th place, but he himself is 3.2 seconds of Gernot Fritzsche's pole lap. Just to give you a little bit of context here. Keith Herner in 12th place. Barry West once again with not a very good qualifying himself, seeing in 13th place. Eric Luca 14th, Robert Simpkins in 15th. Johnny Bell, the number 16, starting in 16th. Paul Ferrer, another mistake in his second lap, forced him to stop that one all the way only down in 17th. Rounding out your top 18 drivers of this field, or all of your 18 drivers in this field, Sergio Morales with his number 17.
So sadly, we don't see Wood here, but Bycroft is going to try and take the fight to Gernot. He's going to have a tough uphill climb, much like this uphill climb into the first corner as the last of the cars grid up. Engines start to rev. The lights are up. Green flag is out here in Texas. Frisha off the line. Not the greatest of starts already. Looking around his outside. Bycroft seeing if he can get a good run into the first corner. That Williams is deep onto the brakes, but unfortunately it's not going to work out. Lead is going to stay the same.
That's Herida. Herida upside down in the back. 3 wide didn't work out for him there in turn 1.
So unfortunately the first corner with its reputation for causing wrecks stays true. Got a little bit of a breakaway for the top of the field. Top 5 starting to string out from the rest of them. Some of that helped by that wreck. Otherwise, they swing through the S's.
Keith Horner in 12th place, spun around.
Looks like Eric Lukel involved in that as well, unfortunately. Onto the backstretch for the first time. Let's see who can get close enough to get a slipstream. I don't think the top 2 are going to see it, but Nicola Kochi is being hounded by Tommy Unhola for that 3rd place. There you see in the blue car. That is Tommy. The red machine is Nicola Kochi down to the inside. Tommy makes a dive. Can't get his wheel into the apex before before Kochi is through, so he'll stay in 3rd place.
And there's already a tiny little bit of a gap back to 5th place. That is John Atkinson. But he is starting to close in again through this tight and twisty stadium section, which is part of the 3rd sector here at Kuda.
Swinging through Turkey, past the mullet, and then they head over turn 19. Very blind crest through here. Frisha looking very strong as he stretches away from Bycroft to end the first lap. But credit to Bycroft, he has kept it at about half a second. In fact, he was very good through the final quarter, make that 0.3 of a second now. He's starting to gain, looks to the inside, knows this could be one of his few opportunities. Unfortunately, he's not close enough, so comes back to the racing line. Oh, and does he get a shot to the back? Was that Kochi hitting him?
I think that was net coach, or Kochi was either way very hard on the brakes to not hit Bycroft.
Oof, that could have been disaster. Thankfully, both drivers able to keep going through the S's for the 2nd time. Let's take a look at the replay. I wonder if we could get an onboard from Kochi to get a better idea of how close that was. Oh, this is the replay of the start that we're going to look at with the wreck.
Yeah, and so the thing that you're going to see is that Herder actually has very good braking into turn 1. There you can see it in the middle of your screen. And then just runs out of room there on the inside and spins himself around the nose of the inside car.
We're watching from the back of Rotor here. Trying to figure out who this car was. Oh, nearly went over. Thankfully stayed with 4 wheels on the ground as we come back live. Already our leaders in the stadium section. But Bycroft, despite the gap in qualifying, is really keeping himself in play.
To finish up this story with Dustin Herrera, he himself is now also through the stadium section, and miraculously, he does not really have any damage from that near 360 that he did there. So yeah, Dustin Herrera very lucky with the damage.
Still in this race for sure. 12th, not the worst of places that he could be, considering he qualified in 10th. Up at the front, Frisha setting the fastest lap of the race. Already trying to stretch away from those who are chasing him. We had that 5-car train. It's now kind of becoming a 6-car train. Atkinson Jr. is being joined by Juan Costa in 6th. The number 12 seems to have some decent pace.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if Gernot Fritzsche's qualifying setup was just that much trimmed out that he was able to pull that much of a gap, and his race setup isn't that trimmed out, which really does hurt him here a little bit, especially down the straight. So Fritzsche most definitely running more downforce right now than in his qualifying setup, and I think that is what really keeps Bycroft, Kochi, and the other guys behind him close to him. Makes you wonder, though, how much would he be hurting behind another car?
Well, he clearly cares about the draft because you could see them weaving down the backstretch, trying to break it for Bycroft and Kochi, who both follow him snaking down this long straight and then breaking into the hairpin of 12. In fact, these top three pulling away a little bit from Tommy Unhola, who apparently is a bit on an untested setup in the chat after qualifying. He said that he was pretty happy with how that qualifying went, considering he was trying something new without having run any laps on it. Coming through the triple apexer once again. Your order for the top five, still Fritzsche leading, Bycroft third, Bycroft second, Kochi third, Unhola fourth, and Atkinson Jr. running in P5. Laps going by relatively quickly for how long of a lap it is around here. Up and around that first corner once again, and then plunging back down the hill into the S's. I think you're right. I think that that just must have been some sort of different set for Fritzsche that he had put on the car, because I am incredibly impressed with Steve Bycroft here.
Yeah, now one thing we do have to mention is that the last lap of Fritzsche was a 53.814, so he's only about 1.5 seconds away from his own pace in qualifying. Bycroft himself a 53.881, which is just a second slower than what he did in qualifying. So Steve Bycroft most definitely running the same downforce levels as he did in the qualifying, but Fritzsche, as said, he's most definitely running more downforce in the race than he did in qualifying, and I think that is right now hurting him a little bit, but I think as long as nobody overtakes him, he is going to be good.
This isn't the only close fight that's going on the track. Down in P8, you've got Kendrick Taylor being chased by Barry West. West staying as close to him as he can, but just a little bit out of reach. They're in the stadium section right now, weaving back and forth with back-to-back-to-back hairpins, and they'll empty into the triple apexer. Looks like Taylor doing a good job of just keeping West at arm's length. Also got a battle down at 15th. Looks like Keith Herner was managed to get by Johnny Bell, or is that Johnny Bell not able to get by Herner?
No, that was Herner getting past Johnny Bell there for that 15th position. That means Johnny Bell has lost 2 positions in this lap so far, so not the best start to his race.
Going to come around to complete another lap. The front stretch, one of your good opportunities to maybe set up a pass, but Herner looking much slower off the corner than Pole Ferrer ahead of him. As we ride on board with Keith, climbing up to the very blind first apex. He's already stretching away from Johnny Bell, so making good on that pass and showing that it was not a fluke. His pace looking very, very good today.
Let's see who has how much downforce on his car. Keith Herner most definitely faster through this S section. So it seems like Keith Herner running much more downforce than Paul Ferrer ahead of him. But that might make it a little bit hard for him to get past Ferrer down the long straight, even with the downforce. Look at how much more speed he can carry here through the end of the S's. Now through the fast left-hand kink. Will he try it already here into turn 10?
He sends one up the inside, but he's very, very shallow. He's given space at the apex. Ferrer manages to get the power down onto the backstretch just a little bit better, but look how close Herner is. immediately gets into that slipstream, seeing if he could try and pull a little bit more speed, maybe have another go into the turn 12 braking. Wow! Herner, very strong. That downforce serving him well, and that is going to gift him 14th position.
Well, that answers the question on how much downforce he's running. Keith Herner is running way more than everyone else around him. Especially through here, you can see how much he is faster through those turns. But now the next car, Robert Simkins, already 3.5 seconds up the road.
He's got some work to do. Remember, Herner lost a few positions at the start. He is now 14th, but he started in 12th. Ferrer actually was not doing a bad job, considering he qualified 17th and was running 14th for a while there. Obviously, he's been recently demoted by that move. But as we... Oh, and Costa off. Is this in the S's? Looks like it is.
That is indeed in the S's. And Joe, it's one of the sausage curbs. Our first victim to the very scary sausage curbs. On the left hand on the next one, he's going to hit it right there and then loses control. Off to the right he goes. Keeps it away from spinning a full 360 degree, but a lot of time's lost.
Oh, and did Keith Herner have a problem at the same time? Oh, loses almost control, and then...
Whoa!
Oh, that is an absolute shame with the way that he was recovering. But he did have a little bit of damage on the rear wing. I wonder if
that was from the turn 1 incident. Paul Ferrer behind him, you're gonna see it right there, also has a little bit of a spin himself there through turn 1. And then, Keith Herner just loses it on the power. It's a very abrupt edge that you have there out of turn 1, and that is what caught him out a little bit there.
Oh, meanwhile, we got a little bit of a battle just behind him. That's Eric Lukl weaving with Johnny Bell chasing. Johnny closes under braking, but he overshoots the corner. Does not make that apex at all. The number 16 is going to have to regroup. In the meantime, Lukel's trying to make good on Paul Ferrer just ahead of him. Since he doesn't have to worry about the car behind for a couple corners, he's taking the opportunity way wide on the exit. Paul Ferrer, unfortunately, looking like he is struggling now.
Yeah, seems like Paul has overcooked his tires so far a little bit. Now the track is scorching hot, I would say, with 41 degrees Celsius. That's 105 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, Paul Ferrer most definitely struggling with the hot temperatures we have right now.
Onto the front stretch. That was a great exit by Lukl. Can he make good on it? They're coming up to the first corner. Defensive move from Ferrer. Holds the inside under braking. They manage to get side by side. Lukl looks for the over-under. Gets a little bit of a good run, but is this enough to get him side by side into the S's? No, it is not. He has to fall back.
Lukl a little bit loose going into the S's. Nearly lost his backhand. Had to recover there. Lost about 10 meters to Paul Ferrer. And also seems like that Lukl is trying to take a bit more, less downforce, as Paul Ferrer makes a mistake through the end of the SS. Through turn 10 they go, and Eric Lukl is already past Paul Ferrer.
Eric set that one up beautifully. Saw him go wide, cut underneath, and now he is gone like a shot. Look at that. Great launch off of turn 11, and that keeps him clear of Ferrer re-attacking him into turn 12 and over the hump on the long back stretch. So Lukl now in 14th with that move. As all this has been happening, let's give an update on the leaders, because it has certainly changed since we last looked. Gernot Frische is now 2 seconds ahead of Bycroft. He's managed to get away from him. Bycroft is 2.5 ahead of Nicola Kochi in third. And then they've absolutely dropped next to, which is our first close battle, for fourth. Unhola leads John Atkinson Jr. There you see them on screen.
Yeah, and it just shows how much Fridge and Bycroft both have their cars trimmed out still, even in the race setup, just driving away from everyone else. Toby Unhola, fourth place, as he said, quite an achievement with his untested setup, but still John Atkinson very close, and who we're right on board with now. Last lap, let's actually see 2/10 slower, no, actually 5/10 slower from Atkinson than Unhola, but he has already closed it up again, so Atkinson seems right now to be a little bit faster than Unhola.
Didn't get a good run off of turn 11, that's for sure. So he falls a little bit away from Unhola. It's now a second between them. It was a little bit closer earlier in this lap. Only on lap 8 out of 22 so far in this race. Got a battle for ninth, though.
Yeah, Joe, and that is between Barry West and Timothy Dalton. Barry West, he started in 13th place, as mentioned. Not a very good qualifying, but he has made up quite perfectly so far, not too far away from Kendrick Taylor in 8th place. That's only about 2 seconds up to that number 10 car.
These two start fighting. Dustin Heroder is back there ready to try and pick up the pieces. I'm sure he's got the red mist after that first corner incident, right on board with Dalton. Looking over his shoulder at the blue vehicle of Barry West coming around the penultimate turn. West looking a little bit more solid through there. Now the final corner, trying to avoid wheel spin as they climb up the front stretch past the main grandstand. Once again, Barry West proving that he is good under pressure.
Yeah, and Dustin Heroder most definitely coming closer and closer. Last lap, he was a full second faster than both Barry West and Timothy Dalton ahead of him. So he is on a steamroll right now.
Weaving their way through the S's. Track starts to go back uphill now towards turn 9. Just ahead of them, that is Kendrick Taylor. Taylor had his own little battle with West earlier on. So far, these three a little bit stuck together. But as we mentioned, Heroder is coming quickly. We'll see what he can do as they come down the backstretch. Is his car trimmed out? Does he have a lot of downforce in it? They launch off of turn 11. As we ride on board with Barry West now, looking back over his rear wing. Looks like not much of a gain for Dustin Heroder. A little bit of a peek to the inside from Dalton.
Yeah, Timothy Dalton most definitely running a little bit more downforce, helping him, or should help him now through these turns, through his last turns, from turn 12 all the way down to turn 20. So let's see if he can do something down into turn 19 or turn 20. Really getting close now, but the launch once again much better by Barry West.
Certainly keeping him at bay. Dalton can't seem to do much with it. Oh, did Ove Trangerade have an issue? Oh my goodness. Now, how did he hit that? This is in the stadium section. He's going to lose control of the car. And then we tried... I think he just unfortunately decided his day was done.
Yeah. Just decided he had enough of this racetrack and took the fast exit.
All right, well, as we come back to our leader in the Renault, again, Gernot Friesche took the pole, but it has not been as dominant in the race as the qualifying made it look. About a second and a half between himself and Steve Bycroft. The flashes of the green Williams that you see behind him every once in a while. There he is. Only 2 retirements so far. Trangerade that we just saw, and Keith Herner a little bit earlier in this race. 16 of our 18 starters are still running.
You know what, Joe? That kind of Ove Trangerade kind of reminded me of Ayrton Senna crashing his car in 1988 at Monaco, and then just instead of walking to the McLaren hospitalities, walking.
Let's
home.
go to P9. We got a battle on screen. Barry West, who is being chased closely by Dalton, has a 3-car fight on his hands because that's Dustin Heroder also in line. To the outside, Dalton breaking deep. Heroder's trying to follow him through. Going the long way around, doesn't quite work on Barry West, so only 1 position lost for now, but I'm not sure how long that'll last. Now through the stadium section. Dalton, sliding a little bit now that he's gotten by, maybe pushing a little bit too hard. Dustin Herroder. Oh, it gets to the inside of Barry West. Almost all the way off the track, way over the curbs, but he makes it stick.
I wonder if that isn't a slowdown here at Kota. Now, I don't remember how those track limits are, but it seems like Dustin Herroder not slowing down to serve any slowdowns, so he was just about good to go on the inside there.
Let's watch a little bit of Max Verstappen there. Instead of being called in by the stewards, looks like he is going to keep that position. Next up on his list, going to be Dalton. Ooh, unfortunately, though, he does not take the first corner very well as Barry West gets right underneath the gearbox. Can't do anything with it. West is going to stay in 11th. Rotor's now up to 10th, and Dalton runs P9. West having trouble in the S's. Lucky he didn't clobber those pyramids at the apexes. And did something happen to Freesia? Did he make a mistake? Oh, he did. It was just recent. It was down into turn 11. See if something becomes of it. But he outbraked himself.
In behind Dojo, that battle for 9th place getting hotter and hotter. Dustin Herroder already back to the back of Timothy Dalton, and I think it's only a matter of time/corners until Dustin Herroder tries to do something on the inside of Timothy Dalton.
Right on board with Bycroft up the front stretch. Not quite close enough, but it is now down to half a second. Remember, this is 1.7 not long ago. Up through the first corner, he now cuts it down to 0.4 of a second. I think we've got time to glance that replay. Let's look and see if we can figure out what exactly happened. It almost looks like Gernot has lost pace the way he's being caught right now. I don't think he hit anything here, so it may have happened earlier if he did get some sort of damage. But watch this here. Way wide. And that's the first point that we've noticed that really the gap has been cut down, Steph.
Yeah, it's a common mistake to do that into turn 12, just ever so slightly missing a braking point, and that has major impacts at the speed of 160 plus miles per hour. So yeah, gonna treat it. Small mistake leading to a big change of the gap back to Steve Bycroft. It's back now to 0.710 thereabouts. I'm not sure if Steve Bycroft actually has the pace to do something against Gernot Friedrich. He hasn't shown it so far, but maybe his setup is a little bit better in managing the tires and not making them overheat too much.
Hey, you talked about the temperatures here. It's still at 106 on the track surface. But as sunny as it is, this Texas weather is not helping things cool down. There you see it on the screen, only a tiny little bit of wind to cool the virtual fans as they come up to the final quarter. I think Gernot looks like he's got a handle on things again. He started to stretch away once more. It's back up to 0.8 of a second. A little bit farther down, we got a battle between Lukel and Ferrer once again, Steph.
Yeah, and Lukel makes a mistake into P11, and that's... Oh! What a save! But that's surely his position gone to Paul Ferrer.
Well, he's going to try and hold on to it. Lukel's still side by side. Ferrer does have a nose ahead, but here he comes right back. Lukel, braver on the brakes. He gets to the apex before Ferrer, looking maybe for the over-under. Not quite enough there for that, so Lukel stays in 13th, certainly under pressure and showing some cracks, as so does Ferrer with a big slide himself.
Oh, we'll save it. He holds it together, Paul Ferrer. But that's the second or third time, actually, that we have seen... Oh, Johnny Belling behind
me. It's a skating rink out there. My goodness.
But Paul Ferrer, it's, I think, the second or third time that we have seen him just not be very brave on those brakes into turn 12.
When Dalton was under attack from Herroder, but it didn't work out. They
actually,
side by side into the...
Actually, Joe, he was already past Dustin Herroder into turn 1. He went past, and then that was Timothy Dalton gaining back his position.
You're right. That was a fierce defense. Dalton not willing to let this go, but it's still continuing as they come down to 11. Both of them shallow into that corner. If they keep this up, Barry West is going to have an opportunity to get in the mix. But for now, it is a two-car fight. Hiroda, who we ride on board with, following in the slipstream down the back stretch. Dalton covering off the inside once more. A little bit of connection issue with Hiroda, staying shallow to the inside into turn 12. Hiroda looks for the over-under. Once again, doesn't work in this corner. Now they come to the stadium section. Dalton parks it at the apex, but he gets hit. Both of them coming together. Barry West gets up to the back of Hiroda, who is now severely damaged. Not able to complete it coming out of the stadium through the triple apexer. Barry West, I think, has got a matter of time. The first long stretch they have, he surely has an advantage now.
And Timothy Dalton in behind has quite some damage. His car is slightly crabbing to the left, so probably Timothy's day is done.
We'll see if he can gain up to turn 1 here. What's the straight line speed of Hiroda like? Not affected enough that Barry West can get himself an opportunity. As they break for the corner, it looks like Hiroda stays in 9th while Barry West is in 10th. Let's take a look at this incident. Dalton was... I don't understand this line, if I'm honest, Steph. I would not think this would work.
Dalton just tried to cover off the inside there, and yeah, honestly, Hiroda, I just don't really know why he went that aggressively onto that apex. Sure, you're trying to make the over and under, but you have to expect that Dalton is going to be there. Sure, he had a little bit of a slide there on the apex, but Hiroda a little bit aggressive onto the apex, and that's two cars meeting at the same spot of track, and that's never a good idea.
Everybody's still going, amazingly, and we've come back live as he's got a longer straight this time, and now you're seeing the effects of the damage. Ooh, but Barry West runs out of straightaway before they both have to brake. He's going to need to get a little bit closer than that, unfortunately.
Quite honestly, Barry West did brake there so early that he stepped ever so slightly again on the throttle before reaching the apex. So Barry West very, very cautious on the brakes there into turn 12. But yeah, I don't see Hiroda being in a 9th place for much longer.
Certainly seems like West has the pace. It's just he's really got to make sure and use that straight line advantage. He closes up once again coming through the last couple corners. Can he maybe do it into turn 1? It's a much shorter straight than the backstretch. Oh, and a big wiggle from Hiroda in front of him. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it cost him enough time. But Barry West will be able to close by the time they hit this sharp left-hander. Laps are really ticking down.
Oh, and Joe, for P13, we're right now side by side between Eric Luckel, who now makes a mistake, and Paul Ferrer. They were trying to do it side by side through the stadium section. Didn't work out, sadly, for Eric Luckel.
Yeah, no contact, but you'll see... Wow, actually, Luckel just took it in way hot into this second portion. Did a good job of blowing the car up in the paved runoff, but unfortunately lost him 2 positions in the process.
Yeah, and Joe, he actually found something that I don't think a lot of people know exists in that stadium section. That's gravel.
This is true. Oh, but he's got a great run on Johnny Bell up the front stretch. Looks for a wide entry, but the car slides on him. Unfortunately, can't make good on it. Bell's going to hold on to 14th.
Oh, here he comes, though. No, does not. Eric Luckel brakes early, tries to set up the exit of turn 1. Let's see if he can do it. I'm on replay, I'm sorry. But yeah, Eric Luckel now a little bit far behind out of the S's.
Didn't have a good run for sure through there. Started to slide around. Maybe pushing the car a little bit too hard. We saw him slide that lost him the 2 positions. Then once again here in the S's. So maybe overheating those tires a little bit. We keep talking about it. Temperatures continue to rise bit by bit. Let's go to Barry West, though. He's closed back in on Heroder. He didn't get by on the backstretch this time, but they come up to the front stretch once more. He's nice and tidy to the apex. As tidy as he races, unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's serving up anything for him.
Yeah, Barry West. I've raced a few times already against him in the Lotus 79, and it seems like he's very soft on throttle application, very soft on the brakes, and it just hinders him, especially in the Lotus 79, a little bit, because you need to be hard, you need to be decisive with the inputs of this car, and that really makes it very hard for him right now to overtake the stricken car of Dustin Herrera.
Of course, as soon as we jumped away, Luke managed to get the spot away from Johnny Bell. So that moves Eric up to 14th. He got that one down into turn 12. A little bit of damage on the front of Luke, though, I'm noticing now. And that must have been at the very start in the S's. We did see him off there on lap 1. That, I suspect, is where that damage came from. Meanwhile, let's jump back up to 4th place, because Unhola and Atkinson Jr. have been close, not been able to get away from one another, but we haven't seen a change of position all race long.
Yeah, exactly. John Atkinson, last lap, it's actually...
Oh,
West.
And Heroder's off. Heroder's off, and he's damaged. He's very badly damaged.
That
boy.
is an interesting incident right there. Only one... An incident like this only can happen at turn 12. Very wide entry, very narrow exit, and Dustin Herrera misses his braking point completely. Same does Barry West, and both cars collide very hard.
It looks like a comedy of errors, essentially. Both cars messing up at the same time, and unfortunately, the problems come together in the worst way possible for Heroder. West is able to keep going, and that gives him 9th place. Surely, with the way he hit the corner of the car, though, he's got to have some damage. See that we've got another driver now in the pits, Heroder. Unfortunately, not able to continue our 3rd retirement of the day.
You know, another battle that is starting to close in is the one for 6th place between Robert Olenek and Juan Mi Costa. Costa starting in, I think it was, no, he did start in 8th place, so he's gaining 1 position so far. Rob Olenek started in 6th place, obviously still in 6th place. So, yeah, these two cars are starting to find each other again after the big mistake of Juan Mi Costa a few laps ago.
Yeah, Rob's been running something of a quiet race, and I'm sure he'd prefer that the cameras would stay away from him, especially with Juan Mi Costa closing in behind. I'm keeping half an eye on this and half an eye on our battle for the lead, which we see now on screen. Freesia, who has been caught by Bycroft once again. It was up to about a second for a while. Now it's been chopped down to about half a second. Bycroft's not going to give this one up easily. He knows that he's got to make inroads on the points on Gernot. Oh, did something happen to Lukel? Lukel's in the wall. Oh, and you know what? It was another victim of the pyramid scheme.
Yeah, and he actually did the double there on the right side and the left side. Finally spins out and crashes hard into the safer barrier.
Well, make that 4 retirements now, and only 14 cars left. Lukel out of this race. Paul Ferrer now only has Johnny Bell to worry about. One less car to fight with.
But to come back to the battle for 1st place between Bycroft and Fritsche, it does seem like Fritsche is most definitely the faster car. He's always starting to stretch away again from Bycroft, but he's making, I wouldn't say mistake after mistake, but he's constantly making every now and then a big mistake, loses a second and a half, and Bycroft is there once again. So it really does seem like Bycroft is missing that last 10th to really challenge Fritsche, but because he keeps it clean, keeps it tidy, he is still able to challenge Fritsche and stay with him close enough to maybe at one point really act on one of the mistakes of Gernot.
And you know, something else that pays credence to these two definitely being pushing and not just managing the pace. 7 seconds back to Kochi, who's in third. And then you get back to fourth, 17 more seconds from third to fourth. So they are really just obliterating the field out there. I don't think either driver is resting on their laurels, but they might get a window here, Steph, because here comes some traffic. It's Johnny Bell and Paul Ferrer, who we were watching earlier.
Yeah, exactly. This might be a little bit of a breaker or a maker for both of them, as Fritsch is a little bit in the wake now of Johnny Bell through the SS, where really need that downforce. And yeah, it's not close enough to really impede Fritsch that much, but now through those last 2 turns of the SS, there we go now. Fritsch getting held up a little bit because Johnny Bell stays to the inside. There goes Steve Bycroft now. So only Paul Ferrer still to go, and probably Ferrer is going to let them pass down the street.
Bycroft certainly didn't get the greatest of runs up and over turn 9. We also had a change for position at P6. Juan Micosta did get by Rob Olenek. It's like, and this was facilitated by Olenek making a mistake in turn 1.
Yeah, the ever so tricky late braking turn 1, blind apex, blind turn, and you only know that you hit the apex once you're at it. And Rob Olenek just braking a little bit too late, you're gonna see it, and then on the crest loses his rear ever so slightly, spinning him not completely around, but enough to really lose out some time.
Great job by Costa to keep himself in touch and be able to get by, even with that little bit of damage he has on the front wing. As we come back.
Oh, and Unhola spun.
Like it back. Oh no!
Wait, no, that must have been way further back, right? Because he has lost 11 seconds on Kochi. No, I'm mixing up Kochi with Atkinson. My bad.
No spin for Unhola. He's fine. Although he did go deep into turn 12, and that allowed Atkinson to catch him. There's been an ongoing battle for 9th. Dalton and West have been side by side for a number of corners. We just couldn't look at it because of Fritsch and Bycroft, unfortunately. And it's still going on here as he looks for the over-under, but unfortunately, Dalton parks it at the apex.
Oh, Dalton with a big mistake. This might be for Barry West. He makes a mistake. Dalton slides again. These 2 drivers completely on the edge here. Look at how much speed Barry West takes through the first apex, hits the third one again. And yeah, Barry West really on a mission. That is a slowdown for Barry West, surely.
Cut a lot of the corner. Is he maybe going to try and serve it on the front stretch here? There it is. Well, that puts paid to that. It was a spirited fight. Both drivers dealing with some damage. I think we both kind of noticed that at the same time as they had been carrying on, and I felt bad not being able to give them screen time for what was such an incredible battle going on in the mid-pack. Closest fight we've got now that that's separated is still for P4, and that is Unhola and Atkinson Jr., but they've only got 3 laps, 2.5 really, to try and sort this one out.
Yeah, exactly, and Unhola, last lap, 54.9, same for John Atkinson. So nothing to give there for Unhola nor Atkinson. Atkinson very wide there through the middle section of that stadium.
You could see on the graphic at the bottom that the last 2 laps, Atkinson had dropped away a little bit. Before that, the previous 3, he was gaining. So I wonder if he's gotten into the wake of Tommy and just can't seem to make inroads anymore.
Either that or he has overheated his tires a little bit. Now, it isn't a thing of the Lotus 79 tires really getting away. Those are Flintstones, basically. They don't wear away. But they can, under some circumstances, heat up that much that you're losing grip, as if the tires would be falling off the so-called cliff. And I think Atkinson is running not only into the wake of Unhola, but also into that tire drop-off because of how much heat he has in his tires right now. He really has to be careful, because if he doesn't manage that, he runs into some major grip problems.
just don't need to go to it, but Bycroft has dropped away from Freesia by the largest chunk we've seen all race. It is 3 seconds from P1 to P2, unfortunately. And I think that's more down to mistakes from Bycroft than Freesia turning up the wick. So I'm afraid that our battle for the lead, unless something drastic happens, might not go to the checkered flag as we watch this fight for P4 with Unhola leading Atkinson Jr. And John is going to get a little bit sick of staring at that gearbox by the end of things. Well, you won't have to look at it a whole much longer. Gernot Freesia coming across the line to take the white flag. One more to go. He needed to put some distance between himself, Bycroft, and Wood. Wood didn't show up. Bycroft did. And when he applied pressure, Gernot is responding. Now, this... we got a pass. Looks like Paul Ferrer and Bell going to swap positions here.
Let's have a look. Bell in behind. That is coming up to turn 19 around the outside. Look at that. Once again, Paul Ferrer not really late on the brakes.
And Ferrer tried to get it back into turn 1, but he was given space and couldn't get the throttle down at the same time as Bell. So Bell holds on to P12 with that. This is our leader once again. Coming around, Bycroft regaining a little bit of it. It's down to 2.5. Now it looks a little bit more like Gernot managing the gap.
The battle for P4, we don't need to go there, but it is now within 4/10 of each other. So Unhola and Atkinson most definitely closing in, but will it be enough in those last dying turns?
Freesia around turn 12 now and into the stadium section. For his cheering fans, the DH driver, again, will not be completely clear. This won't seal the deal on the championship, but it will at least solidify himself and put more distance between he and Steve Bycroft, the Hoosier, looking and hoping for a championship. He will probably move up in a second without Wood here today. Gernot Freesia around the final turn and to the line. Victory here in the States for the DH driver.
The Austrian cowboy does it once again in behind them. Nikola Kochi will finish in third place, and Hola still under pressure of Atkinson. But Atkinson looking like a little bit defeated right now for that fourth place, and Hola only 2 more corners to go.
He could still send something in. He's awful close coming up to the final corner. Unhola, a little bit of a cover. Oh, deep on the brakes, but that was a Hail Mary if I ever saw one. Unhola's going to take fourth. Atkinson settles for a top 5. Last of our cars coming through. Only 11 are going to finish on the lead lap. Costa with a well-earned 6th place. He held off Rob Olenek, who chased him all the way to the finish. Kendrick Taylor as well. Got to give some credit to him, managing in 8th here. Timothy Dalton's unfortunately less than clean car will manage a top 10. He's going to get a 9th with Barry West having fallen back after that slowdown penalty that he suffered through this portion. And the last one across the line going to be Robert Simpkins, as I said, 11th, the last car on the lead lap. So that's going to take us to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. If you watch on screen, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Circuit of the Americas, where we just watched the penultimate round in the Lotus 79 Classic Teams Championship. Our winner is our points leader, Gernot Friesche. He's extended his gap over the driver that finished behind him, Steve Bycroft, who we think might just take second in the championship with that finish. But he unfortunately doesn't gain on the driver that he really wants to beat here, Gernot, the Austrian. Nicola Cocci, who unfortunately didn't get a whole lot of screen time, wound up third and did run a good race to get himself a podium. Tommy Unhola had a lot of pressure, but he managed to get fourth ahead of John Atkinson Jr., who is just behind him at the line, P5. He was back behind him all race long. Juanmi Costa worked his way slowly forward, chipped away until he got a sixth place, just managing to get past Rob Olenek, who finished in seventh. Kendrick Taylor manages eighth today. Timothy Dalton, with a lot of excitement, putting it mildly, out on track, finishing ninth. Barry West rounds out the top 10 behind him.
Robert Simpkins, the first driver out of the top 10, finishes in 11th from a 15th place. A very strong but wide race from him. He's also the last car on the lead lap. Johnny Bell, the first car one lap down, started in 16th, finished in 4th place. Paul Ferrer, very interesting fight he had there with three cars who all kind of disappeared from him. The last one was Johnny Bell, who was driving away at the very end. Sergio Morales, one lap down himself too, in 14th place, also the last car to finish this race here today. The cars not finishing, sadly, are Eric Lukal, 6 laps down in 15th, Dustin Herrera 16 for him, and then Ovid Trangerade with a very interesting early exit out of the session in 17th, 14 laps down, and Keith Turner, the first car to sadly get caught up in a wreck, in 18th place.
We've got our winner ready to talk to us, Gernot Friesche, who certainly had to deal with some pressure from behind all race long. But before we get to the race portion, Gernot, we were curious about if you had any difference in setup between the race and qualifying, because a half a second back to the nearest car was an impressive gap.
No, there was no difference. Actually, I don't really know why Steve was so quick on his race at this time. Because in the race before he seemed a little bit slower. So yeah, in the beginning I was quite confident. I could control the race quite easily, but yeah, Steve was really making pressure there.
This is something of a technical track, and obviously it shares a few similarities with the next one up, Suzuka. Do you feel like you can do a little bit of the same to wrap up the championship? Obviously, this extends your lead by a little bit, but doesn't keep you safe by any means.
Yeah, we'll see. Both are technical tracks, but Suzuka is much better track in my opinion. I really don't like Circuit of the Americas, and Suzuka is just a great track, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think there's a few people who share your opinion. But with Suzuka, are you going to be starting practicing now? Do you believe that you need to put everything into it really to just give yourself that extra insurance? Or has your experience there in the past with it being in the sim for quite a while make you feel pretty confident already?
Yeah, of course I have to do some practice, but yeah, I will prepare just like every single week. So trying to put in some laps before the race, and yeah, of course I have quite a bit of experience also at Suzuka, so that helps a lot. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that race. Should be a good one again, and a good season final, of course.
Well, we look forward to it as well. You certainly gave us some real nail biter stuff here today. Congratulations on the win.
Thanks, Joe. I think some of the nail biting came also from being a little bit short of fuel, so I had to save a bit. Made things a little bit more complicated. Yeah, so yeah. Thanks, guys. See you next week. Congrats to Steve and Nicola as well.
Well, that changes things a little bit as well and gives us some talking points, as Steph is going to be talking to Steve Bycroft now, our second place finisher.
Yeah, second place. And Steve, I don't know how you felt about that one, but it seemed like you just didn't have those last 1 to 3 tenths to really get up to Gernot and challenge him for that first place.
No, Gurno, he's just too fast at these technical tracks. I mean, that's like his favorite tracks, are these technical tracks, and he's just so fast. I mean, I was surprised actually that I kept him in sight so long.
Yeah, still, you were there every now and then because of mistakes for Fritsche, which I would say was led in part by the very high temperatures that we have seen today, 109 Fahrenheit at the end of the race on the track. How did it feel for you out there?
My car was set up for heat, so I had quite a bit more downforce. The earlier race was cool, so my car, wasn't near as good in the early race. So I was actually hoping for hotter temps.
Well, Steve, one question that is pretty much always something you have to ask: love it or hate it?
Oh, I definitely hate this track. I think it's terrible.
Well, Steve, next up, if I remember correctly, we're going to Suzuka, if I heard that correctly, with Gernot. How are you looking forward to that one?
Oh, Suzuka's, a top 3 track probably. I mean, if you have everybody list their top 5 tracks, I mean, Suzuka is first or second probably. So it'll be a welcome change from this place. I mean, the problem here is are these all these first gear corners. So I mean, if somebody's like 2 seconds slower, you cannot get by them unless they make a bad mistake.
Well, Steve, we're gonna have a very big lookout for you then at Suzuka, and yeah, fingers crossed for you in that track.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Steve Bycroft, your second place finisher, 1.8 seconds behind Fritsche at the very end. Next up, Nicola Kochi with Joe Peak.
And Nicola, a little bit more of a quiet race than those two up at the front had, but not so at the beginning. And Nicola, talk to us about, I think it was either the second or third lap. You looked like you nearly turned Steve Bycroft around coming into turn one.
Yeah, I don't know why. It happened at least 2 times, and it seems that our line in that corner is quite a bit different, and so that's why I had to use the brakes there, and not only there, in the other Erpin as well, and that's caught me by surprise. But I was lucky enough to be reactive and avoid disaster.
Then from there, you held on to the top two for a little bit, and you seemed to fall away, unfortunately. And with too much of a gap to try and really challenge, what did you do to try and keep focus? Because this is a track where, while it's not the most punishing for mistakes, obviously it could be tempting to push the car too hard with those paved runoffs.
Yeah, I think that one of the most most difficult problems here is the off tracks, because it seems that it's like a scramble around, like in a very random way. There are some corners that you cannot even see the curbs, other corners that you can cut it completely. You have just before to learn the track and the corners, you have to learn the off tracks here, and all your lines and all your lap is going to evolve around that. And so that's a little bit like strange track. I'm not like a big of a hater of like Steve is. I think he's the most biggest hater of this track ever. But it's a strange track. I don't want to say that I hate it, but it's a weird track. It's you have a lot of strange corners, strange banking to cope with it. It's not very, and if you are not used to, it can be really problematic. But I was falling back, but honestly, I was quite happy on my pace nonetheless, because I have very little practice. I was on vacation until Friday, so I have like very only 2 days of put some laps on it, and to be like 8 seconds behind Gernot, that here is super fast. It's a major achievement for me, and a couple of podium as well. I didn't hope for it.
Well, it sounds like you set goals, and I have to agree. It's difficult to stay even close to the pace of Freesia, it seems. But again, congratulations on a podium, and hopefully we'll see you in Suzuka next week.
Yeah, thank you. No, I will not be in Suzuka because I will be at the Sim Racing Expo in Germany in the Nürburgring this week. This weekend. So my season ends here. So I just want to greet with you guys and see you in the next one.
Well, it's disappointing for the fans, but that's a good reason to miss if I ever heard one. Have fun next weekend, and we'll see you there.
Okay, thank you guys. Bye.
That was Nicola Cochi, who finished third, and it's going to wrap up our interviews for today. So, of course, we want to give a big thank you to the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage here on the Global Sim Racing Channel, but also a big thank you to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go out to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Also, thanks to the team today, Stefan, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you head on over to our YouTube page, or you just scroll down below this video, you'll see a big red subscribe button. Click that, you won't miss a moment here on the GSRC. The next race, as we mentioned, going over to Japan for the finale, very appropriate. It'll be at Suzuka, September 1st at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. But we have other races upcoming that are listed on the screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.